So, in these 16 stages, 16 steps of mindfulness of breathing, as I've said, that they are organized in groups of 4 called tetrads, and that the last step in each tetrad, the instructions are has to do with something in the family of letting go, or of freedom, or of release, whatever your language that you like to think of that is. And in step 4, it's calming the bodily formations. Sometimes it's translated as tranquilizing, and I love the word tranquil, but tranquilizing I associate with something you do with animals or something. So it doesn't really evoke a positive, obviously positive response for me. Bringing about tranquility of the body. In the 8th step, it's calming, relaxing, tranquilizing the mental formations, the mind. We'll see in a while that in the 12th step, it's freedom, release, releasing the mind, freeing the mind. And then in the final step of the 16 steps, number 16, it's something called relinquishment, which maybe it's a big word that doesn't really inspire so much, but it involves a real qualitative, transformative experience of freedom, of liberation. And so the movement towards greater and greater freedom begins with this simple thing of relaxing the body. And it's kind of beginning to learn the lesson of freedom. It's beginning to have a reference point for the goodness of what it's like to not be tense, not be caught. And I think for many people, it's a little bit more accessible, this physical relaxation, than it is full-blown liberation. But we're beginning to get a little taste of it, and this embodied taste of it. And most people don't associate, just simple physical relaxation with Buddhist liberation. But maybe there's, the liberation is kind of such a matter-of-fact thing. It's not, the greater liberation we have, the more it just seen as, I don't know if ordinary is the right word, but not such a unusual thing, or not such a otherworldly thing, in a sense. It's just a very profound experience of what we're beginning to experience as we begin to relax the body, as we begin to relax, as we begin to experience a physical tranquility. So, as you know, those of you who are following along, that I give a lot of emphasis on relaxing at the beginning of the body, at the beginning of the meditation. And relaxing, it's maybe a little bit too limited in describing the sense of tranquility that can come as we continue deeper and deeper into this anapanasati. But looking for tranquility, looking for the calmness or the serenity that can exist in our practice is said to be the support for greater tranquility. We're not making calmness or tranquility the be-all and end-all, but it's a wonderful foundation that begins to soften the hardness of the heart, the hardnesses of the mind, that we're stuck and things don't move. Tranquility begins to create a sense of safety, inner safety, where things begin to release more and more. And we're not looking towards, I like the word tranquility more than calmness in my use of the words, because calmness can lend itself to the idea of becoming too calm, so calm that you fall asleep. In my vocabulary, tranquility has an alertness to it. Tranquility is not just calm, but it's also kind of a harmonious energy, kind of energetics. And so this calm kind of aliveness, a tranquil aliveness that can be here in an embodied way. So I say all this as a way to encourage you to begin appreciating the influence that relaxation has. That in your daily life as you go about, if there are times when you notice your shoulders relax, your belly relaxes, you sit down at the end of a long day and you finally let down all your preoccupations and drive and momentum that you have, and you feel more relaxed. See if you can appreciate the influence that has on you, and see if you can maybe begin feel some of the initial feelings of a certain kind of freedom, a certain kind of release, a certain kind of no longer being limited or bound or caught in something. Feel what it's like physically. Begin to appreciate the small little movements of freedom that can be here. And as you get a hang of it, you might find that there's actually a lot more little movements of freedom, little movements of not being caught, that are happening all along. And that maybe often it's so easy to overlook because it's not valued particularly. Other things, getting something done, might be more valuable. But there might be a lot of little movements of just kind of, oh, that's great. You might step out of your house after a rainstorm and the rain has passed and the sun has come out, and something inside of you just kind of releases in that feeling of just being in the sun, being outdoors in the fresh air. And so what is that influence? What's that effect on you in the body to be there? And to appreciate it. Don't hang on to it. Don't get too complicated around it. But just kind of start feeling the little movements of freedom, little movements of release, of relaxation, of tranquility, of peacefulness that seems to emanate from the movements of relaxation, of ease that happen. And the more we start recognizing this in daily life, in meditation, different places, it reinforces that movement. It reinforces the value of not being tense. It reinforces the value of not being caught up in preoccupations or driven or bracing ourselves against things or closing down or trying to run away from things. It reinforces, it kind of begins to question those movements of mind, those ways in which we are, which are the opposite of freedom. And to do that in the small areas of your life, ordinary things, is a wonderful stepping stone that supports us finding it deeper and further along until the deeper areas of letting go, of freedom that Anapanasati is taking us to become more natural, more accessible, more understandable because of what we've kind of really taken in earlier on in the practice. So not just simply in meditation to experience this, but in other times of the day as well. Begin, if you really want this Anapanasati to really go deeper and deeper in it, this movement towards freedom can become an ongoing sensitivity, an ongoing attention that we have. And it's not being self-preoccupied to do this. I hope you don't think it's selfish, because the freedom is kind of beginning to turn ourselves inside out so that we're actually in the freedom. We are, I think, kind of more easily, naturally going to be more sensitive, more caring for the world around us. So, tranquility, letting go, release, relaxation, calmness, all ways they're connected to this, the family of experiences, of movements that's connected to liberation. And to become a connoisseur of this, become sensitive to it, be informed by it, to be inspired by it, to be in touch with it regularly. Maybe even so it becomes a little bit of a habit, so they can grow and develop in you. And so that may this practice that we do lead you to greater and greater experiences of freedom. And in doing so, may it be for your delight. So, thank you so much for today, and we'll continue this tomorrow.